Hi YouTube, welcome back to Wtf Rc Cars. So, moving on with the XT8e, I've decided to swap the Ludicrous servo out. Found a one that's a better fit for this car. 40 kilogram servo. It's fully waterproof. I've stuck the receiver down and we've got a metal servo arm. So, moving along, what we need to do now is get all the wires mounted to the ESC, and then I'm going to go for that orientation and get it fixed in, and then we need to solder the wires and the battery terminals and just make us a little jump lead up for the batteries. So let's get you in for a closer look on this and you can see what we're doing soldering wise. Right, so first thing we're going to want to do with this, let's make sure soldering tip's clean. Right, we're going to want to get a bit of solder flowing on these. So let's tidy these up. So I like to get them all started nicely, and then we're going to start getting the cables on. Right, they're on there, they ain't coming off. So now we've got those wires soldered on nice and neat, we can see where we're going to position this. So we've now got as positive and negative terminals coming off the ESC, and then we just need to position our A, B and C motor wires now and get these soldered in. Right, so from this end to that end we've got A, B and C. So let's have a look. So our A wire, we're only going to want to be that long. So now we need wire B, so we're going to run that the exact same way. Definitely a lot easier with the bigger soldering tip. try and do it so you can see what I'm doing. And it's an awful lot easier soldering when you're not trying to get it on a camera. Or trying to keep it in shot. Well, I never mind soldering, but I'm always glad when it's done. So that is our positive feed, and then we just need a bridge cable to go between the two sets of batteries. Right, so let's get an update on it. We have sensor wire fitted, we've got ESC stuck down, switch stuck down, and tiny little receiver stuck down, the FGR4S. We are running the A80BHWM Super Gear with one of their aluminium 25 tooth servo savers. That is a 40 kilogram servo. Decided to use that one instead of the 23 kilogram. I think that's more suited for a 1/10. So this is a lot stronger servo. Not giving up that much in speed either. So it should be nice and strong, nice and quick. We've got the positive and negative cables, so they can go to the battery posts no matter which way round they are on the battery. And then we've got a link cable, so that's long enough to reach if it's one that goes all the way across, or if it's just one from the two centre ones. And I can always fit it somewhere so it can't fall into any of the gears or drive shaft. So it should keep it out of harm's way. Right, the next thing we've got to build up is the shock absorbers. So let's crack on with that one. Right, so shock wise, the little white bits, you're going to want that one and that one, the smallest and the first of the bigger ones from all of these. So we're going to want the shortest shock shafts, and then this is a lot easier if you've got some shock shaft pliers. But we basically need a tiny little washer. Then the front ones, you want the bevel side face down, and these are going to be the 8-hole 1.2. They've got a little 2 on them, and you can count the number of holes, so that's not an issue. And then basically you just want to snug these down, don't over tighten them. It does tell you in instruction manual that if you over tighten them they will start to bow and disfigure. So that's one. The rear ones, you again want the 8-hole, but this time it's the 1.3mm. So that is our front and rear pistons built up. Right, so we're going to start with the front ones. So you want the smallest shim, pop that in, and then just make sure it's seated all the way down. Then after that we're going to want an O-ring and another O-ring, Right, so what I like to do with these is just get a bit of the shock oil and just work it into the O-rings. You can use any kind of oil, but may as well use the shock oil that you're putting in them. So once you've got the two O-rings sat in there, you then want to use one of the caps to cap it off, and then you're going to screw one of the end caps for the shocks. Alright, so when building the shocks, it tells you to put the gator on first, then we're going to wind the end of the shock on. And when you're winding these on, it says leave a 1mm gap at the end of the thread. Right, so once we've got the shocks built up, we're then gonna put the 550 in the fronts. So we've got 550 in both fronts, and the rears are going to be 600. And then we're just going to leave these for the air to come out of them. So the X-ray manual advises to just run them through the motion 3 to 5 times slowly, and I find this pretty much works. It's the same sort of instruction that you'll find with most RCs that you build. So I'm just going to work all 4 of them up and down slowly 5 times, and then we're just going to leave them for the air to naturally float out of them. It'll just raise to the top. Right, so these have now been stood for a good 15 minutes or so. So the instructions, and this is where it gets messy, because it does tell you to top them all the way up. So you're bound to get some come out, but they do give you plenty, so it's not as if you're going to be struggling for shock oil. But yeah, you are going to have plenty of oil left. Right, so what I like to do while I'm waiting for shocks to settle, so it doesn't really matter what order you do this in, but it does give you something to do while you're waiting for them to settle down. And it seems as though your hands are, usually by this point you've got a bit of silicone grease on them. It does let the little O-rings slide better. So I like to get the shock cap. You want the air cell to the top, so you get that in, and I'm going to set these up for sort of 50% rebound if you like. So get the shock so far down, tighten it up halfway, and then with the shock halfway compressed, you can tighten it up and then clean all the gunge off that gets absolutely everywhere. Right, so that's the main part of the shocks assembled. We've got 2 front, 2 rear. Right, so we want one of those little plastic rings, and that goes onto your black metal insert. Then you've got a black plastic insert that goes on the other side, and you just squash these together. So you got metal on one side, plastic on the other. And then we need the shock bottom. And I was sure with these it tells you to trap the last little bit of the rubber gator with the bottom at shock. And then you're going to want to fit one of your little olives in the bottom. Right, so moving on. we've got our shock towers. So on the front, these are going to fit on the outside. And it's going for the top centermost of the holes first. So that's going to be the initial setup. So once you've got them in place, you're going to want to get one of the front shocks. It looks like they're wanting us to fit it with the metal part outwards, which would make sense. Then we'll get the opposite side one on, again going metal bit outwards. So like on most race kits, initially we're going for the outside on the A-arm, and it's going to be a reverse thread on the front right wheel. And then on the left hand side it's going to be a normal thread and a black screw, not a silver one. I'm not sure when they decided that the reverse threads were all going to be silver, but it does seem to be the way it is. So that is how you're going to be fitting the front. So we're going to have the silver one front right, black one front left. We're going for the outermost holes and the centre ones at the top. Right, let's move on to the rear body mounts, shock mounts, sorry. So on this one, we're going for one away from the outermost, again on the top row. And this is very almost looking like a finished RC. Still got the body to do yet though. So again on this one, we're going to go with the metal to the outside. And again the silver screw, and it's the outermost position. It's telling us to run as at stock. And finally for the shocks, and we're getting very close to completion now. So we have rear spoiler to put in place, and then we're going to have to get a tiny little locking nut under the bottom of this wing. So you've got to somehow get the locking nut into this rear spoiler housing. Once you've got the nuts in place, you should be able to screw the top screws down, and you get these little buttons, or big washers if you like, and I'm sure X-Ray do them in a whole bunch of anodized aluminium colours. So last thing we're going to do is, I believe it's to put the wheels on. So wheels and tyres wise, we have the Schumacher mini pins for the dry, and these are the yellow compound, and then I've got the silver spirals in case it's damp. They seem to run pretty well in wet. That definitely looks like it's sitting a bit high at back, but we'll have to see once it gets batteries in. There's a lot of weight in them batteries. Well, it's alive, so let's see if we can get it bound up. Sounds pretty smooth. So, let's wrap this one up.
Signal lost. Shutting down.
Right, so there you have it. Got us wheels, tyres, got the servo we're going to be running, aluminium servo arm, front rear shocks all fitted, batteries fitted, ESC and motor all wired. So I think this is pretty much going to be spec we're going to be running with it. The only thing I may change is I may swap the receiver for one of the enhanced ones, simply because I believe this servo can run at 800 Hertz or roundabouts that. I'm not sure what the Hobbywing ESC can handle, but if we can utilise that, it might be something I'll look into at a later date. But I'm going to try it with the FGR 4Fs and the MB Noble Pro. We've just got to adjust the height of these battery clips so we can get batteries down okay. So that's not really going to be much of an issue. But then we've just got to get us nice body shell painted. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell or share to friends and family. Anybody else you might find this useful or interesting. And I'll catch you guys again in the next one.